Good morning and welcome to the Arizona Lithium Investor Webinar. I'm Jane Morgan, Investor and Media Relations Manager, and today I am joined by Managing Director Paul Lloyd and Executive Director Zach Maurer, who'll be providing a company update. To ask questions throughout today's presentation, please use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. Paul, I'll hand to you.
Good morning, Jane, and good morning, shareholders. Thank you for attending today. First off, I'd like to thank the shareholders for their support of the recently closed share purchase plan. We were looking to raise $2 million from that facility to help advance the Prairie project in Canada, and we ended up raising $4.25 million. So thank you, shareholders, for that support. And it was gratifying for me personally and the rest of the board to give the shareholders, the existing shareholders, the opportunity to participate in a capital raise. I have received some feedback from shareholders in the past, and it was good this time to give the shareholders the opportunity to put further funds into AZL. AZL is continuing to advance the two world-class development projects that we have, and with those funds we will advance the Prairie project. Why are we advancing the Prairie project? If you look at the two development projects, they are definitely world-class and they are large. They both have potentially large resources, but Prairie has an existing large resource. Big Sandy needs to be drilled out. If we look at where they fit in the cost curve, the Prairie project definitely is on the left-hand side of the cost curve. You would see a lot of information recently in the marketplace about Rio Tinto entering that direct lithium extraction brine arena of the lithium industry, and that's very encouraging. Of course, we have Exxon in that area as well. So the technology is improving rapidly, and we think we are in the right place at the right time. In comparison to Big Sandy and Prairie, we also have a different approvals timeline. We have recently announced the approval of the first pad at the Prairie project in Saskatchewan. The Big Sandy project, it's a long, involved permitting process in the US, more particularly in Arizona. The change in administration will assist, but it still is a long-term process. And if you look at Thacker Pass, which is now in construction, that has been 30 years in the development. I don't suspect that the Big Sandy would take 30 years, but it will take a lot longer. So as a board of directors representing the shareholders, we need to maximize a return to shareholders. So our attention is very much on the Prairie project, and it is a near-term production asset, and we've put out some good announcements more recently. We're continuing to de-risk that project, and I'll hand over to Zach, our Executive Director based in Saskatchewan, to give us an update on the Prairie project. Thanks, Zach.
Yeah, thanks, Paul, and good morning, everyone. I just want to second what Paul said in terms of sharing our appreciation for the shareholders that took up the allotment on the SPP. That's a huge vote of confidence, and obviously all the directors took up their allotment as well. So we're bullish on the project here as well. So it's been a big 12 months as we push forward with the development of the Prairie Lithium project here in Saskatchewan. It was almost a year ago exactly when we kicked off our drilling program on pad 1, drilling those initial production, disposal, and brackish water source wells, and then obviously subsequently moving on to pads 2 and 3 throughout the summer and fall. And that was really important work in order to be able to test those wells, and more importantly, take the brine from pad 1, test it through the DLE process so that we could then move into the engineering and design process this past winter and ultimately select and finalize our DLE provider, who we obviously selected as Koch to manufacture the first commercial scale LSS quad pod LiPro unit. So happy to announce that the fabrication of that commercial scale direct lithium extraction unit is well underway, and it's still anticipated to be completed by October of this year. So making a lot of good progress on that front. Now, obviously, associated with that commercial scale unit, there's a lot of supporting infrastructure and balance of plant work that needs to happen. But the big thing for us is obviously moving forward that DLE unit, because we see that as a key step in de-risking and progressing and ultimately putting the project into production. So that DLE unit that we're manufacturing, as we've mentioned, it's going to be one of the largest direct lithium extraction facilities and one of the largest direct lithium extraction units in the world when it's complete. It's going to be able to process 1,000 cubic meters of brine a day, which, based on our brine, is about 150 tons per annum of lithium carbonate equivalent process capacity. So it's a very large commercial scale unit. And the beauty of this unit and why we decided to build something of this size is the fact that it is commercial scale and fully replicatable. So we've got our production well drilled and tested. We've got our disposal well drilled and tested. And now we're manufacturing the commercial scale direct lithium extraction unit that can ultimately extract the lithium from that brine. So when you take all of those things, the goal with phase one at pad one in terms of producing our brines at a commercial scale, processing those brines through this commercial scale direct lithium extraction unit, and then disposing of those volumes at commercial scales as well is really a meaningful de-risking process that we've gone through on the project. And there's a lot of work involved, and the recent regulatory approvals and the project approvals are really a testament to the work that the team puts in and day out in terms of not just acquiring all of the technical information, but interpreting it and then presenting it in a way that governing bodies and the officials that ultimately issue the permits can understand, so that we can continue to march this project into production. In addition to that, we're obviously working very closely with a lot of the government agencies. There's a lot of potential funding opportunities available for critical minerals here in North America. And we're working diligently to try and find places where our project can align with some of the mandates that some of these agencies have. So there's a lot of work in motion, a lot of fabrication, a lot of infrastructure and utilities work in motion. And yeah, looking forward to continue to develop the project, and definitely a busy year ahead.
Gentlemen, we might jump into some Q&A here. And again, webinar attendees, please use the Q&A function, which can be found at the bottom of your screen. We actually received quite a few questions before the webinar started, so I'll jump into these ones now. The first one was, can you share AZL's overarching vision for the next 12 to 24 months? And how is the company positioning itself in this global lithium market?
Yes, so I'll answer that question, Jane. I do get a lot of questions from shareholders about how AZL, with 2 development projects, will survive the lithium winter. And we're very confident the winter will thaw and we'll be back to a more reasonable commodity price. We need to wait that period of time out. So we will advance the Prairie project. We will build the coke facility and we'll advance that facility as and when funds become available. So we have to meet the market, and funds are very difficult to come by at the present time. We see that will change. Don't know exactly when that will be, but it will be where lithium comes back into favour, and we'll be raising funds. We will accelerate the development at that stage, but we will not let the company's cash reserves run down to a point where we are vulnerable. So the risk associated with the Prairie project is really from a funding point of view. There's a lot of opportunities with strategic partners, off-take agreements. Zach mentioned government assistance, etc. So it's not just purely an equity raising, and we've got a lot of balls in the air in regards to the funding, but we will safeguard the long-term survival of the company first and foremost.
Thank you, Paul. One that's popped up now. So at what point do we see AZL starting to commercialize and gain revenue, which will obviously enable shareholders to see a return on their investment?
Well, it's sort of linked into the answer to the first question, really. We will advance the project with funds available. And as Zach mentioned, the DLE plant, the coker building, will be completed in October. That's a major part of the plant at the first pad. And we will continue to build the facility. But if the market turns, we get a strategic partner in, we get some government assistance, etc., we will fast track that. So yeah, a little difficult to answer that and put a month on it, but we are definitely advancing the project to commercial production.
Wonderful. this one's come through a few times actually, just on how Arizona Lithium differentiates itself from other ASX listed players. I think this one's more so around, assets, technology, or market strategy. Again, you kind of touched on it, but I'll let you answer.
Yeah, that's another good question. And we know most of the ASX players in the market. We are in the US. Most particularly, we're in a producing oil and gas field. So permitting is quite straightforward. We're doing a process that is all stakeholders are very familiar with. It's an oil and gas area that has a high water cut. We are doing exactly the same as the oil and gas producers in the region. And if you got onto the website and saw some of our videos, there are oil and gas facilities in sight of our first pad in nearly every direction. So that's, I think, how we differentiate ourselves. We've already got the permit through for the first pad, and we've got a very cooperative government in Saskatchewan and a cooperative federal government. So they want to be part of this lithium production increase in North America. There's not a lot of projects heading into production in North America. They're a little bit long term, a little bit like the Big Sandy project. And as this winter thaws and the hockey stick comes in with the commodity price, we will be one of the prime turnaround stories for lithium. If you want exposure to lithium and near-term production, AZL will be the company.
Zach, I'm going to hand to you for this one. So, and I know you touched on this anyway, but can you provide the latest updates on the Prairie project, and more specifically, what milestones have been achieved since the last investor briefing, which was 6 months ago?
Yeah, we've had a number of milestones in the last 6 months. And obviously, finalizing everything with Coke, getting those agreements in place, formalizing our strategic development plan in terms of phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and then getting that plan through the regulatory process so that we can continue to execute on that plan in the field. So there's been a lot of legwork happening on the project to make sure that we're putting the project in a position so that we can continue to build and develop it.
Thank you, Zach. There's just a few questions here on anticipated CapEx and OpEx figures. This one actually asks just how they compare to peers in the region, what we're anticipating and how they compare.
In regards to CapEx, I think that we do drill a lot of production wells, disposal wells at our project, but we have a very clean brine, so our OpEx is significantly lower than other players in the industry, particularly if you compare to, say, the Smackover Formation, because the quality of the brine. But remembering that anyone who's in an oil field, an existing oil field using direct lithium extraction, they will be in the left-hand side of the cost curve. So this is a part of the lithium market that will change the lithium industry forever once it goes into production. I think it's one of those things that people will say, oh, look, I'm not sure this is going to work. And when Exxon goes into production, Rio Tinto, etc., everyone will go, well, that was obvious. And I think we're at that inflection point, and we're right up there at that point. So it's exciting for us, and we will fast track the project as much as we can, given our funding.
Thank you, Paul. Zach, maybe perhaps for you, but now that the design of the first Prairie production pad has commenced and the plant fully designed, how do you see the Lithium Research Centre being utilised in the future?
Yeah, the Lithium Research Center, the lab there is absolutely incredible. So continuing to send samples there and have our samples turned around, it's an asset to be able to do that internally and to be able to trust the data that we're getting, so we get timely and quality data from Lithium Research Center.
Thank you. A few questions here just on the cost relationship. So in terms of that relationship at Prairie, developing obviously the commercial scale DLE, what financial arrangements are in place for services, and what are the proposed overall costs that AZL may expect to incur?
For phase 1, we released our capital budget earlier this year, and that was a $22 million USD budget for phase 1 on the Prairie project.
So our relationship with Coke is very good. They lead the industry in direct lithium extraction in North America. They're a very large private company. They come with substantial financial backing and industry expertise. So we're very happy with the Coke arrangements, and remembering that the Prairie project is implemented on a modular basis. So the first pad is 150 tonnes, and then we will implement additional modules and additional pads as we grow to expected production of something like 17,000 tonnes per annum over a period of time. So our relationship with Coke will grow over that period, and we're very happy with the work they're doing today.
Thanks, Paul. Few questions here again on how AZL is engaging with local communities and stakeholders, particularly to build long-term support for the projects.
Yeah, this project, we've been very active in the community the past 8 years since inception. We speak at numerous local industry events. We're constantly out in the public. We've hosted town halls. We've hosted, service and contractor appreciation nights. We've held various tours for the public and for elected officials. So we've been very involved. All of our landowners where these pads are going, I've met them all at their kitchen table and had a cup of coffee, some of them multiple times when I'm down in the area. So we're very active. We're very active in terms of community engagement where our project is and here locally.
Thank you, Zach. Just a few here on the cash, and obviously doing the SPP was a great injection, but current market conditions, how is AZL managing cash burn and capital allocation to ensure that long-term stability? Oh, yeah.
Yes. So it goes back to one of my previous answers in regards to the acceleration of the Prairie project. We'll implement that pad based on available capital and our ability to raise funds through government assistance, strategic investor, off-takers, and the equity markets. So we'll manage the construction based on the available funds.
Thank you, Paul. Perhaps one you might not be able to answer in too much detail, but are there any merger, acquisition, or joint venture opportunities currently being explored to accelerate the development?
I think if you're conscious of shareholder value creation, you need to keep your mind open to M&A activity. Let's say it's the bottom of the market. I hope it is. Then there are opportunities out there, and we are constantly evaluating and being approached by other companies. We are busy with strategic investors in our data room and answering a lot of due diligence questions. Our technical team are heavily involved in that, but on the corporate side, we do spend quite a lot of time looking at M&A activity, and the overrider has to be creation for our shareholders. It's a little bit like the NASDAQ listing that I talked about previously. The capital markets are not positive for lithium at the moment. That will change, but the NASDAQ is definitely not positive for lithium. So we're not looking to do that NASDAQ listing in the present environment.
Thank you, Paul. There's a few questions here just about spodumene concentrate and potential offtake agreements. Is there anything you maybe want to perhaps comment on there?
Well, we don't produce a spodumene concentrate. We're not that type of project. So from direct lithium extraction, we produce a lithium chloride or a lithium carbonate, a very high quality product. So the spodumene price doesn't really affect us. It's not encouraging that it's down, and I would say that there'll be some changes at the current commodity price. Some of these spodumene producers, not that I'm an expert in spodumene, will have to look at reducing their production or going into care and maintenance unless the price recovers. So that's a good sign for our shareholders in that the lithium price can't stay at these levels long term, because the demand is there and supply will come out of the market very quickly. I'm not sure we're right at that point now, but it will come if this commodity price continues.
Thank you, Paul. Sorry, bear with me. There's quite a few coming through. There's just a question here about timing for production at Prairie and when that's going to look like and whether we'll be beating out E3 lithium.
Zach?
In terms of timing for production, again, as Paul mentioned, we will continue to develop this project as quickly as capital allows. And, we make sure that we've got all the technical information, all the regulatory permits in place, and we'll continue to develop as quickly as the capital allows. And, the team's working very hard on multiple avenues there. So in terms of other companies' production timelines, I'm not going to comment on, but we're doing everything we can on our project to make sure that we can get there.
Wonderful. Gentlemen, that might actually be all the questions that have come through. I think just finally, what catalysts should investors be looking forward to?
Just to understand that we will run the company well based on available capital funding, and start to look for that movement in the sentiment for lithium in the general marketplace, and we will be ready to go. There was a little bit of positive news out of Argonaut and Canaccord about a month ago, and there's a shakeout going on in the market, and way beyond our control. And as soon as that starts to shake out and the commodity price starts to move, people, the strategic investors, etc., will start to move, and it'll be an exciting market again, and it's not too far around the corner.
Wonderful. Well, gentlemen, thank you for your time today and your insights, and thank you all for joining me. If we have missed any of your questions, please feel free to reach out via the contact details on the bottom of the ASX releases, but we'll look forward to hosting you again soon.
Thank you, shareholders. Thanks, Jane.
Thank you.